Here we go again. It's a never-ending story. You hope come to an end if you're a Jet fan, and that is these ridiculous takes by the media to do whatever they can to slam the Jets organization. It's just an easy target. Easy target. There are times that some of these stories, when you hear from your team, are going to be true and you deal with it. And I've had a lot of situations over the years covering sports, covering my teams for about 30 years in the industry, having won one World's Championship, never having one for my NFL team. Actually, I should, if I'm going to include college, that's different. But just for my professional teams, just one. So I've had a lot of losing. And I've had a lot of bad owners. I've had a lot of bad general managers. I've had a lot of bad head coaches. But I've also been able to recognize the good owners, the good GMs, and the good coaches. And I said this when Woody Johnson, Chris Johnson, whatever, when the Jets hired Joe Douglas and then Robert Saleh. And I remember how excited the fan base was with the hiring of both. And I said at the time, and I continue to say it, that I think that Joe Douglas is going to be the general manager that is going to hoist the Super Bowl trophy, that if anybody can do it, Joe's going to be the guy to do it for this franchise. I was very confident in Coach Saleh, not as much as Douglas, but confident enough that he could get the job done as long as he had the right personnel. And the more he's a head coach, the more experience he's going to get, and the more easy, if you want to say, is going to be for him to be a credible head coach. Unfortunately, the Jets have been, as an organization, they have really had bad luck. Just bottom line, the last couple of years with injuries. Bad injury luck. And because of that, the GM, the head coach, and the whole organization is being looked at like the organization has been looked at over the past, 11, 12 years. I can't even remember. I lose count how long it's been since they've been to a postseason game. But it's the nature of the business. I'm not here to stick up for anybody about criticism of losing. You all have to deal with it. What I don't like, and what I will stick up for, are stories like this. And let's get right into it. Now, I can't post the story on the site because you have to pay for The Athletic to read it. But I'm going to go over the story by Zach Rosenblatt and Diana Rossini that came out on January 31st. Titled, Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh, and How the Jet Season Fell Apart. Something Has to Change. Okay. So let's pick it up. The Athletic spoke to 30 sources in and around the organization, some of whom were granted anonymity to speak freely about the inner workings of the team without reprisal. Those sources described a team riddled with excuse-making, a paranoid head coach, an ill-equipped offensive coordinator, and an organizational tunnel vision on the quarterback that rubbed some teammates wrong. They spoke to 30 sources. I just want to let you know that if you speak to 30 and one of them, whoever it is, and I don't even know who it is, and I've said this for years, anybody that doesn't have the guts to put their name to a story and call themselves a source is complete BS in my department. If all we're doing is believing the reporter, hey, Zach Rosenblatt said it, Diana Rossini said it, so if they said it, the source must be good for me. Now, that's completely up to you if you want to think that way. Completely up to you. If you want to be that gullible and just believe whatever you hear, that is completely on you. That is fine with me. I'm not going to change your mind, okay? But get this. All right, let's say you have 30 sources. Let's say one of those sources, okay, let's just say one of them says, the team has a paranoid head coach. So if one of those sources says Man, Coach Sal, he's paranoid, man. That guy's paranoid. All I have to do as a writer is say I spoke to 30 sources, lump them all in, and then talk about paranoid head coaches, talk about how Aaron Rodgers rubbed teammates the wrong way, etc., etc. Only one of them. It doesn't have to be 5 or 10 or 15, just one. Only takes one. I can lump the whole 30 sources. One guy says Salah's paranoid. And that makes it, as far as people who are reading this story believe, well, he spoke to 30 people, so 30 people must have said Salah is a paranoid head coach. Which is the first time I ever heard about this. And to tell you the truth, there's a big difference between being paranoid and being somebody that is diligent when it comes to, hey, you hear things, you see things, you're going to react a certain way. You're going to double check, triple check. Even though what we're getting every time that we hear these questions come about with Coach Salah over the past couple of years regarding his job security, all I hear and see is a coach that seems to understand the profession he's in.
When a coach is 5-9 and he's 16-32 over 3 years, he gets asked these kind of questions. So I'm just going to ask you: Do you think you're coaching for your job over these next 3 games, Robert?
I'm just coaching to try to beat Washington, Rich.
Doesn't that enter your mind at all, given the way the season has gone?
No. Two types of coaches, Rich. Those who have been fired and those who are about to get fired, my man. We coach in the moment. Coach to win a football game.
I believe Coach Salah when he says it, because he's saying it. It's up to me to believe whether or not I believe what he says. I'm going to believe it. Maybe you don't, but I'm going to believe it. So I've got a coach that when he's confronted with job security is handling it really well to the outside world. But I'm supposed to believe a source saying he's paranoid. Again, could be one person, could be 5, could be 10, could be 1 that says Coach Salah's paranoid. I'm supposed to believe that. I don't know who that is. Where's he? Where's she? Let me listen to that person tell me why Coach Salah's paranoid, and I'll let you know, and I'll decide. I've got their take, I've got Coach's take. I'll decide then. But when I got Coach's take, and I've got source, why on earth would I be dumb enough to believe source? Let's go on. Let's see. In an oft-repeated conflict at Florham Park, a star-studded defense that kept New York in games grew frustrated that the offense couldn't find a way to put up more points. Yeah? Okay? Is that a story? Just imagine. Imagine. Back in the day, whenever you played sports, you had teams, you were part of a team. Or just imagine if you were. And your side was doing all the work and the other side wasn't. Would you be frustrated? Of course you would. It's human nature. Anybody would be frustrated. But, big difference between being frustrated or increasingly frustrated, big difference, versus I'm so frustrated that I can't stand those motherfuckers on the other side of the room. I can't stand how they're bringing this whole team down. We're doing our part, and those guys just keep bringing us down. They fucking suck. I don't fucking like them. They're assholes. They're costing me money. They're costing me a chance to go to the postseason. I hate them. Big difference. Offensive players felt like Rodgers handpicked offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. Yeah, and we all knew that. Hello? Next. Failed to adjust after losing his quarterback and didn't put them in position to succeed. Yeah, we all know that. Again, everybody knew it. Everybody knew Nathaniel Hackett did not do his job. 100%. So once again, what's the point here? The point here is, so far, anything that's been said in this story, we all know it. We all knew it. As fans, we all accepted it at the time. When Aaron Rodgers went out there running on the field with the flag, we accepted what was going on with Hackett. We accepted what was going on with some of his former players that were signed to help him. We all accepted it because Aaron Rodgers is here. And as soon as he got hurt, we all rushed to judgment and started finding people we could blame. Not right away, because again, maybe we had that false hope. But as the season wore on and some of the losses got really ugly and they couldn't score points and the injuries mounted and the losing mounted, the pointing the fingers. What happens if as soon as Aaron Rodgers went down, boom, we're here today. And we go, okay, well, what happened? What did we have, 7 wins or something? Yeah, it's about right. All right, well, Aaron Rodgers is coming back next year, right? All right, great. Okay, let's do this again next year. But no, we're not going to accept it like that. Why? Because we went through it, and it hurt. And we've had 10, 11 years of the hurt, and somebody has to pay for this hurt, and we have to blame people for it. And then this is when these stories come out. Okay, this is and by the way, let me make sure you understand this. I'm not saying that there aren't people in that building, maybe even players on that team, that have issues with the way things were done, that have issues with the coach, that have issues with the owner, the GM, and Aaron Rodgers. Hackett. I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm not saying that. But the difference in what the story is out there trying to make you believe, which we're going to still get into, and what I'm trying to make my point of is, it is nowhere near as bad as you think. Okay? That's the point that we're going to get into here. That there are some people in the organization, there's some things going on in there that they're not really bought in. They don't understand what it takes to win as a champion. Whether it's faith, whether it's being as a team, whatever the case may be, they're not in. They're not bought in. If we see a few trades along the way, if we see some cuts because they're trying to open up some cap space, don't be surprised if those players were part of this story, which is why they're not going to be a part of the 2024 football team. Let's move on. The whole thing about how Hackett came here from Denver and what a disaster that was. Signing Alan Lazard. Let me tell you, I was as critical as anybody about Alan Lazard last year. But until last year, I'll tell you right now, I was an Alan Lazard fan. I was an Alan Lazard fan dating back to his days at Iowa State. I thought he was an awesome, big-time player for the Cyclones, and felt that I know he didn't have the speed. I know there's some issues in his game, which is the reason why he wasn't anywhere near being a high draft pick. Yeah, you know what, though? But he's one of those guys that, what do you want to call a winner, or just somebody that, especially when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback to work with, somebody that could actually be a part of the winning. And that's exactly what happened to Alan Lazard. Because if he was on a team like, I don't know, maybe the New York Jets that had a dysfunctional offense and it didn't have Hall of Fame quarterback, et cetera, he would be insignificant. Okay? He has to be a part of the team. He has to be a part of the process of the team and the quarterback and what he's looking for and who he can count on and so forth and so on. And we all saw the bad drops by Lazard and just how it just was so excruciating to watch, especially, of course, with the amount of money he was paid. But once again, if you want Joe Douglas, what an awful move by Joe Douglas. Not an awful move by Joe Douglas. Because Joe Douglas did not believe or come into this thinking, well, I'm going to sign Alan Lazard, and even though I know Aaron Rodgers is going to be here all year. Never would have given him that contract if he did not think he was going to get Aaron Rodgers and did not believe that Rodgers was going to be here all season. Never would have given him that contract. So, I can't blame the guy for that. I just can't. Fact is, that's what happens when you lose your Hall of Fame quarterback after 4 plays. All right. And yes, I still believe Aaron Lazard can be a big part of what the Jets are going to be doing in 2024, as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy. Talked about his line of communication with Joe Douglas. It's not uncommon for team decision makers to consult star quarterbacks on potential roster additions, but the perception around the league was the Jets went beyond the norm. Rodgers isn't the assistant GM, one AFC general manager said. Joe Douglas is the assistant GM. Total fucking nonsense. All right, just bullshit line. And why the fuck do I care what a competitive general manager is going to say about my team? Who the fuck cares? Okay? And who the hell is this anyway? We don't know. How do we know this general manager isn't like the shittiest general manager in the league? And we're supposed to take anything he says to mean something? It's bullshit. So, now, as he said, not uncommon for the decision makers to consult star quarterbacks on potential roster decisions, okay? But then we get into the perception. All right, so here we go again. This is how, and I'm not saying Zach Rosenblatt isn't a good writer. He obviously is. And Rossini. They can write. But that I can't. But this is what they do. Okay? The perception. I'm going to slip in this perception word. So, see, the more perception words and the more I plant all these little words into this long 3,000-word story, it just starts sinking in. And all of a sudden, by the end of the story, I'm believing everything. Instead of nitpicking every little word and everything that is said that should be scrutinized, considering they're all sources. And no one's putting their name on it. To keep moving on. Over the summer, Rodgers collaborated with Hackett to construct the offense. Sal, as usual, was hands-off on that side of the ball. Rodgers and Hackett's relationship dynamic is more frat brothers than player-coach, and Rodgers appreciates having the free will to operate the system as he sees fit. I completely agree with that statement and understand it too. Because we saw it. Hackett is not the most creative guy in the world when it comes to putting together an offense. He just isn't. Okay? But the relationship between Rodgers, who at this point in his career doesn't really need a coordinator. Sure, he can have an assistant coach that is gonna be the one that's going to implement everything, and then Rodgers comes in and will decide ultimately what to change. Especially right there. Once the play is called in and Rodgers gets up to the line of scrimmage, he can do whatever he wants at that point in time. He can change to whatever play he wants, whatever defense he sees, what personnel he has working with him to make it work, because he knows this offense better than anybody, and he knows what has worked with it. Another reason why trying to put Zach in that position was totally wrong. And it gave Zach a no-win situation to succeed. Long before the litany of injuries along the offensive line, the Jets used 13 different starting combinations in 17 games. New York's talented defensive line consistently outplayed them in practice. But one coach said it was concerning how little urgency Hackett and his staff showed in trying to fix it, saying he'd never seen a team watch less practice tape in training camp than the Jets did with Hackett. Okay. So here we go with we're going to put all this blame on Hackett, which at some point I'm okay with. But he never see a team watch less practice tape in training camp than with the Jets. One coach said it was concerning. Okay. Now, was Aaron Rodgers with the Jets during training camp? Yes. Okay. So if Hackett and Rodgers worked together and had success together at another time on another team, then I would guess that whatever they did to have that success at another time with another team was very similar of what they did at training camp this year. Now, whatever this coach, however he wants to spin it or slam the team, the coaches, or the players regarding that, fact is, this was still before the injury. So it had worked before with success with Aaron Rodgers and Hackett. Not Hackett without Rodgers. With Rodgers and Hackett had worked together before. So I don't know what to make of this. All I know is if it worked together before with Rodgers and Hackett, then I don't know what else to tell you. Again, I'm not there. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know what happened. And once again, I have no idea who this coach is. No idea. I have no idea if this coach is still on the team. Which, by the way, I would guess to say that if he is, he won't be before 2024. Or if he's not on the team anymore. Because remember, I said coach. One coach. Yeah, there's a lot of coaches on a team. You got coaches with high positions. You have coaches with low positions. So this coach could have just been one minuscule little coach who's a nobody, for all I know. And again, the only thing I can go by is it worked before. Why would I think it wouldn't work again? Hackett struggled to adjust the offense to the team's new reality. Yes, absolutely. Terrible job. Talked about all that. He struggled to make adjustments. Yes, we all know that. And he talked about all the Jets leading the league in pre-snap penalties and total penalties. And of course that's going to happen. Of course they're going to lead the league in pre-snap penalties and all that kind of stuff. Because even though they talked about it, it was in parentheses. Where is it? The Jets used 13 different starting combinations in 17 games regarding the offensive line. Do you know how hard that is? Even if you put that situation on a team that, like the San Francisco 49ers, you even do that on the 49ers and you will see issues. I talked about this season. We saw what happened when they had their most injury-plagued month of the season, including their star offensive tackle, who was lost for several games. One guy on the offensive line was lost. Just imagine having all of those guys lost and all of those different combinations. So this, we know it. It should have been accepted. It should have been reality. Could it have been better? Absolutely. Could Hackett have done a better job? But a lot of it was expected. Not so far. Nothing that has been said in this article is earth-shattering and can't be put back into context, into the proper context. Saleh has the mantra, positive vibes only, printed on T-shirts that coaches and other staffers often wear around the team facility. The Jets head coach tries to stay optimistic around players and in front of the media and has garnered respect from many in the locker room for cultivating an environment that allows players to be themselves. But behind closed doors, the vibes weren't always positive, especially when Saleh would see negative press reports. He would often bring up how, in his mind, the Giants don't get as much negative coverage as the Jets, calling it unfair. Now, I could 100%, absolutely, matter of fact, if I was Coach Saleh, I could see myself saying the same exact stuff. And I could see myself being in a room hearing Saleh say the same thing and being like, yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, I almost started this video talking about that. When I started talking about, here we go again, I can't believe we got to start talking, everybody's got to slam the Jets. I almost said they don't slam the Giants, but they like to pick on the Jets. But I didn't say it. This is not new. Now, there's a big difference, too, besides behind closed doors to being, oh, man, I'm just so pissed off. How come all the time shit happens? They're always picking on us. I'm so sick of this. I'm just going to pick a chair and I'm going to throw it out the window and I'm just so sick of this. Every single day I got to see this negative stuff. Big difference between that and, man, how come they always pick on us, man? I never hear him say anything about the Giants. This is such bullshit. I'm so sick of this stuff. Big difference. It was said. Somebody could have said, hey, I heard him say that. It's printed that way. But the context of it big difference. Big difference in reality of where you want to go with this. In the aftermath of Rodgers' injury, Saleh bemoaned his bad luck. As well he should have. I'm surprised he didn't hang himself, for crying out loud. Throughout his tenure, he has often wondered aloud if he was doomed to the same fate as Vic Fangio. Talks about his job security. As the Jets lost games and struggled to score points, job security seemed to be Saleh's primary concern. Okay? This was Saleh. Now, I don't believe any of that. Zero. None of it. Not just because of the way Saleh reacted when the question was posed. Okay? Now, once again, there's a big difference between how everybody feels. You're human. Of course you're going to feel about job security. You got a wife. You got kids. You don't want to be uprooted and have to go somewhere else. And then because you know if you leave here as a head coach with this record, you're not going to get another head coaching job. You got to go back to being a coordinator. And then who knows where you're going to go. Now, you're going to be somewhere. Trust me. He'll be a defensive coordinator somewhere within like a day, a week. That's how good and talented he is. But big difference between being human and being concerned with job security, as opposed to job security seemed to be Saleh's primary concern. Who would know that other than Robert Saleh?
Two types of coaches, Rich. Those who have been fired and those who are about to get fired, my man. We coach in the moment. Coach to win a football game.
The only person that would know such a thing, okay? No one else would know. Okay? Not a player, not an assistant coach. Nobody but Saleh would truly know whether it was a primary concern. He wished Johnson or Rodgers would publicly endorse him for 2024. Johnson is known around the building for being active on Twitter, consuming criticism from fans and media alike, which, by the way, I think is dumb. Okay? I've said this before. I think Woody, to me, I think he's an average owner. I don't think he's great, obviously, and I don't think he's awful. I just think he's average. I think he could be better, and these are partly of those reasons. Because I think he does tend to make decisions and have his feelings known or unknown, but known to himself, on whether or not he's feeling a certain way based on social media. It is the worst thing you can do. It is the dumbest thing you can do. When Wilson was benched for Boyle ahead of the Week 12 matchup with the Dolphins, he knew his Jets career was over. According to multiple team sources, in their meeting to discuss Wilson's benching, Saleh told the quarterback he would be inactive the rest of the season, that the team would try to trade him in the offseason. And now here we go with all this stuff. Saleh asked Rodgers to speak with Wilson to convince the young quarterback to change his mind. That didn't work either. Wilson's feelings about his idol soured over the season. Oh, my God.
I love Zach, and I want what's best for Zach. And if he wants to be here, and if that's what's best for him, then obviously we'd love that. Love to have that relationship for another year.
Let me tell you something. I know I'm 55. I'm getting old, but I'm not that old, and I'm not that senile. If I grew up and I had an idol, and my idol came to play with me on my own team, when just 10 years ago I was watching this guy, my idol, on television, and I dreamed of being him, and he was the guy that I just loved more than anybody, and that guy came on my team, and he, even before he became a member of my team, I'd reach out to him, and he was accessible, and he was friendly, and that was so awesome. And then he came to my team, and he was a teammate of mine. Oh my God. Would that have been the most awesome thing in my freaking life? My idol is here to teach me how to be a better football player. This Hall of Fame idol is going to, this is just what I need. Oh, this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to me. I am going to love this. This is my guy. This is so awesome. And yet, I'm supposed to believe that, because maybe we'll get into it, because where is this all of a sudden that Wilson's feelings about his idol soured over the season? How? Why? Why on earth would it be soured? For what reason? Are we going to read about it? Maybe it's yet to come. Things went sideways for Sal after the report about Wilson's reluctance to return to the lineup. That's a problem with the organization, Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show. We need to get to the bottom of wherever this is coming from and put a stop to it privately. There's no place in a winning culture, blah, 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 blah. Okay. There's been a bunch of other leaks, like this one, just like I said before. And Aaron Rodgers is 100% right. And they will find out. It'll happen. They will find out. Okay, first of all, they'll find out which sources actually were real sources. And then they'll find out whether or not those real sources, whether they were coaches or players, are still on the team and in the organization. And then before 2024, they will be gone. And that's a good thing. How often do we talk about how teams go through bad seasons, and if you don't stay together, you lose the team. And only the great teams stay together. Well, the Jets obviously aren't a great team. They're not a great organization. That's been a problem for so long. What do you think Joe Douglas has been trying to do here for the past several years? It doesn't happen overnight. Okay? So how many times have we talked about during the draft and during the construction of this lineup that the players that Joe Douglas brings here have been captains on former teams. They have leadership qualities, et cetera, et cetera. Not every player, but for the most part, many of the players that they bring in here have what it takes to be the type of players that they need in situations like this to stick together. For those in and around the Jets who witnessed a franchise turned over to an aging superstar and a season destroyed just minutes in, the hope is that betting big on Rodgers this time is the only thing that feels like deja vu. Aaron will be an offense in itself because that's what he brings to the table, says Garrett Wilson. He's special. I just pray that everyone in the world gets to see that next year, but what happened this year can't happen again. That is the end of the story, and I cannot believe this is a big deal. Did I miss something? You're kidding me, right? This is the end of the story? There's no I thought I was going to have to debunk something serious. Okay. Now that's the stuff you can't see.
Despite the fact that we have evidence that most of it is true and a little bit of common sense for the stuff.
Oh, we have evidence? Evidence! You know what your definition of the word evidence is? The definition of the word evidence is when we actually see something. Somebody says something, okay? Is it this way or is it this way? Well, somebody says it's this way, and I see it that way. That's right, I saw it from my own eyes. I saw it and I heard it. I heard it and I saw it from my own eyes. It's this way, it's not this way. It's evidence. Evidence. It's fact. Evidence is fact. It's factual. I've got factual statements here. What evidence? There's not one shred of evidence to that story. You have rumor, conjecture, opinion, no evidence. Zero.
That we don't have the hard proof. A lot of Jets fans seem upset about this Diana Rossini report. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com, but we do have proof that what she's saying is at least deeply rooted in facts. And now if you want to say she embellished or made stuff up,
Deeply rooted.
You or I have no evidence of that. But we do have evidence of the origins of these accusations being accurate. So what am I talking about?
Yeah, what are you
let's
talking
talk about the most damning accusations in the report,
Yes.
okay? The first one, to me anyway, is the Nathaniel Hackett not meeting with his coaches until late in the week. Basically, he's not preparing.
Who cares?
Quoted once, Nathaniel Hackett,
Nobody
examples of him
cares.
doing it the previous season,
We all know Nathaniel Hackett's a
he
stiff.
admitted it. Good, bad, otherwise. I know she's a lady who doesn't like Aaron Rodgers because he made her look bad. Okay, fine. They can both be true. Maybe she hates Aaron Rodgers. Maybe that's why she wanted to write the story. Doesn't make the story false. Doesn't make the story unimportant. It's important to know that coaches aren't doing their jobs.
Oh, so he already is admitting that Diana Rossini has a grudge on Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, most reporters nowadays that have a grudge with Aaron Rodgers, I'd say 90% of them, and they don't have to be reporters, they could be Jimmy Kimmel. Most of them, it's because of COVID. 90% of them. It's a personal, political, idealistic issue with Aaron Rodgers. And that's that we're not supposed to look into that. We're not supposed to, when we're balancing whether a story is accurate or not, factual or not, we're not supposed to include the fact that the person who's writing the story, co-writing the story, has a vendetta against the person. Oh, that's meaningless. Doesn't mean the story isn't factual. Again, when you come with no facts, when you come with no actual evidence, all you have is innuendo, rumors, and opinion. That's all you have, okay? Because there is not one fact that we have been shown yet. Not one. As soon as we get one, I will let you know how I feel, and I'll be the first person to go, hey, man, that's got to go. That person has to go. That's wrong. Shouldn't have said that. Can't act like that. I'll be the first one to defend that. But because we have no facts, not one, nothing, zero, all we can go on are the opinions of the two writers and their sources.
And everything about Nathaniel Hackett tells us he's probably that type of guy. She goes in the building, gets quotes from people telling us, we as fans have said all year that he was terrible at his job.
Isn't this... You're admitting to yourself that every Jet fan felt this way about Nathaniel Hackett. So why, when somebody puts this in a story to... And who knows, maybe this was put in there in the story because it would make the two writers look like they were credible, because everybody already knew that Nathaniel Hackett wasn't very good. So if you're not very good at what your job, okay, there's a reason for it. I don't know what that reason is, but there's reasons for it. So let's find out what the reasons are. Okay? That's what they did. They went and found out what the reasons were. We didn't know what the reasons were. We just knew he wasn't very good at it. Now we know. Now we have a little bit of an idea, let's just say, of why he's not very good at what he does. Okay, so what? What does it have to do with this being anything new and this having anything to do with any relevance to where the Jets are right now as an organization? And what bombshell did we learn from this article? I'm still trying to figure this out.
Now you just get confirmation from within the building, people saying something's got to change. I would imagine.
Confirmation in the building that something has to change. Holy bombshell. No, let's keep things the way they were. 13 straight seasons of losing football. We bring in a Hall of Fame quarterback. We change the entire dynamic of the offense. Because remember, the defense was not the issue. It's just the offense, the one side of the ball that's holding the team back. But everything on that side of the ball revolves around that one player. All right? That player goes down after 4 snaps, and we kind of forget all about it almost. And we're trying to still point fingers and make excuses about why the team was not good this past year when it was right there in front of our eyes in that first game when he went down. Why is this such a big bombshell?
And I'm just guessing here, but isn't it weird that, within a week or two of this story coming out, you see 2 Jets coaches get fired and the Jets part ways with Rex Hogan? So you can chalk that up to a coincidence if you like, but Robert Saleh, as we've seen...
Thank you. What did I just say? The players and the coaches that were here and the scouts that were here at midseason and that will not be here when we're ready to put a full roster together in 2024. Those coaches and players are not here. A lot of them. You want to know those sources? You want to know where this is coming from? There you go. Okay. This is what's called progress. What's not progress is keeping those coaches there, keeping those players there. Some fans might be like, oh, well, that's not, anybody would do that. No, anybody wouldn't. That's the difference between organizations that are either winning or are trying to win. They're trying to do good. And this is a positive sign for the Jets. Positive. That, hey, here are guys that have been around for a few years that have actually been spokespeople, like Rex Hogan. We've seen Rex Hogan on a lot, talking about the draft and players and so forth and so on, assistant GM, all that kind of stuff. He's not here because of salary cuts or scouting indecisions. Well, we don't see eye to eye in scouting. He's not here for obvious reasons because he's part of the problem.
Joe Beningo, one of Robert Saleh's best friends.
How dumb was Robert Saleh to become friends with Joe Benigno? I'm just sorry, but that is a character flaw. That if I'm running the Jets, I am bringing Saleh into my office as Woody and Joe. And I'm sitting Coach down. And I'm going, Coach, love you, man. I know we're all learning. We could all be better owners and GMs and head coaches. What are you doing? Please tell me you knew right now. Not new, but no, right now, that what you did was wrong and dumb and stupid. Please tell me you do this. Please tell me you know this. Because if he didn't, then, he probably wouldn't be here anymore.
That Joe Douglas wanted to pay $7 or $8 million for the corpse of Dalvin Cook. We saw Aaron Rodgers.
Let's remember, okay? Again, this is Monday morning quarterbacking with Dalvin Cook. Okay. Number one, if there was an offensive lineman or a wide receiver that was out there sitting around that Joe Douglas could have paid $7 or $8 million to make the Jets' offensive line better or the wide receivers better, tell me who that player is. But because that player didn't exist and he had the money to spend, remember, I've got Aaron Rodgers here. I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. we're going to be a playoff team. And don't tell me the Jets would not have been a playoff team this year. Colin Cowherd's expertise. Yeah, you must have Houston winning the AFC South too, right? The fact that a team like Houston went to the postseason this year, every year, teams that you would never have any idea would be postseason teams become postseason teams. And if Aaron Rodgers was healthy, the Jets would have been a postseason team. So here's Joe Douglas thinking about, I'm going to be a postseason team. I'm trying to get as close to the Super Bowl as I can, okay? And I've got a running back that is coming back from a serious injury. Now, what happens? if I lose that running back again? What happens if the running back is a shell of himself and just doesn't have it? What happens if he gets a minor injury and he's out for 6 weeks? And because he's got this injury, we're going to have to be patient with him, and because we're not going to ruin his career. And it's going to be about 2024 for Breece Hall. What is he going to do in 2023? He's got to have a veteran running back in there that he can count on. That's why Dalvin Cook was brought here, as insurance. Okay, if Breece Hall was 100%, Dalvin Cook would not have received $7 or $8 million to come here. But because Breece Hall was coming off an injury and you could not 100% count on him, and you're trying to win for your team, you couldn't go into the season thinking, well, all right, maybe we'll pick up Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon. No, I'm going to be proactive. Okay, I've got the money to spend. Aaron Rodgers okays this. I'm going to go ahead and get this guy. It all goes down the drain, though, when Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. And I will say this, because I'm going to talk about this on another show when I talk about what the Jets need to do, because I will. I'm going to go over what the Jets really do need to do to be a successful team, as far as what their moves need to be and what the things that Joe Douglas didn't do or needs to do. Now that he's learned his lesson, because I believe that there was a lesson to be learned there. And that is, and I've said this already this season, he's got to get more depth at receiver as far as the skill positions. He's got to get more speed. Okay, that's why CJ Azuma's got to go. That's why the Randall Cobbs have to go. He has to get faster players to work with at the skill positions. 100%. Absolutely has to do that. Obviously, he's got to fix the offensive line. But let me tell you something. A lot of people think that they're going to be a revamped offensive line. They are not. They really think this kid Warren could be a starting tackle in the NFL. It's going to be his second year. It is very possible this kid could end up starting for the Jets this year. Now, you're not going to bank on it, but that's a very significant possibility. Throw in the fact that Tittman's going to be their center going on. He's in his second year. And you're bringing back Elijah Vera Tucker. It is very possible that you already have. Now, again, the jury is still out on Warren, but you might already have 3/5 of your offensive line set for the next 5 or 6 years. If Warren, Vera Tucker, well, look, Vera Tucker and Tittman are going to be, they're going to be fine. Warren, still got to wait and see. But if he's the guy at right tackle, we have 3/5 of our offensive line set. Now we just got to take care of the other 2/5. So it's not, and again, if you're healthy, it's not a big deal. The Jets' offensive line was not great last year. Even, remember, the offensive line, they weren't that good in the preseason, and, they were going to have to do something about that. And, yeah, but if they were all healthy and Aaron Rodgers was behind center, then, you know what? It would have been good enough. It just would have. But this is what happens when you don't. And yeah, they gave too much to Dwayne Brown and all that. Yeah, he's going to make mistakes. But also keep in mind, the whole Dwayne Brown thing, that was if we were going to be in contention towards the end of the season. That was still going to be something that was going to be a month or two down the road as far as the whole Dwayne Brown thing. It didn't work out. Again, what happened? He got hurt again. It happens. All right? And that is why the one thing Saleh said in one of the late press conferences is true. If you are going to do anything this offseason more than anything, you have got to figure out a way. If it's possible, sometimes it's just luck, but you've got to figure out a way to keep that offensive line healthy.
I've been working on this for over a month and a half in terms of just trying to find the direction that we need to go, continue to work on it over the next few months. But that is at the forefront of my mind. It's the forefront of everybody's mind to keep those guys healthy. If the O-line's healthy, the quarterback will be healthy. If the quarterback's healthy, we'll all be healthy. And but it's definitely something that we're studying, and we'll get down hopefully get an answer for. We've, for the most part, once Joe Tittman became the center, we had some continuity along the offensive line. And I know, like I've said, it's not to be confused with good enough yet, but I do think the offense, especially in the run game, really improved over the last 5 weeks of the season. And but that comes with just continuity. Always appreciate the 5 that we have, It's just getting them out there so they can play next to each other long enough. And so yeah, we're gonna look at everything. We're gonna turn over every stone we can. Like I said, we're gonna try to go through every back door and see if we can find an answer to keep these guys on the field and keep them healthy.
Kind of like a story that we're going to tiptoe around because it's a totally sourced story. But since we respect one of the authors of the story, Diana Rossini, it was about the Jets, and boy, it doesn't make the Jets look good. It makes them look dysfunctional. It makes Robert Saleh, a guy that we have a real good relationship with, look totally paranoid.
Oh, totally
And
paranoid.
like, wow, like he's not in control.
The story makes Robert Saleh look totally paranoid. This paranoia. I just, it just blows my mind, but I'm used to it, so I should understand where this is coming from. This is how they make a living. They blow this stuff out of proportion. They want to get the fans calling into the shows and so forth and so on. But there's no evidence, zero, that Robert Saleh is paranoid. None. And once again, it's the way, it's the infliction, it's how you interpret the story. It's how you, like Howard, they say it like it's true. They'll preface, they'll say, understand the sources and da-da-da-da. But the story talks about how Robert Saleh is paranoid and the Jets are a dysfunctional organization.
And it does amplify something that we all kind of assumed. I think there's a line in the story that Aaron Rodgers is the GM and Joe Douglas is...
Oh, there we go. Aaron, it's what we assume. We are a bunch of fucking jackasses. We are a bunch of fucking idiots. If we assumed that Aaron Rodgers is the real GM here, we're fucking idiots. Let me check something out here. Let's check out the Jets depth chart. All right. Let's see here. Let's find out, because Aaron Rodgers is the GM of the Jets. Let's see what we have here. Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb and Billy Turner. There's three of them right there, okay? You see where he's at? He's all the way back here. You know why he's all the way back here? Because he's a stiff. He's a nothing. He costs nothing. He's just a couple of $1 million guy. He's a nobody. Means nothing. These are the guys that matter. Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. That's it. Cobb will not be a part of the organization next year. Neither will Billy Turner. Now maybe Turner could come back, but he's going to stay here and he's going to have to make the team. But Cobb will be retired. Alan Lazard will be here. That's it. Now, we've already gone through the Alan Lazard stuff. Okay, now, let's take a look at the rest of the team. Okay? Remember we talked about Cook. The only reason he was here last year is because of the potential where you could not count on Breece Hall. That's it. So, obviously, if Aaron Rodgers is going to get approved, you're going to get approval from Aaron Rodgers and why wouldn't you? How stupid would a general manager be to not ask the opinion of a Hall of Fame quarterback who played in the same division and in games knows more probably about Dalvin Cook than Joe Douglas? Why wouldn't you ask about that running back if you're Joe Douglas? Okay, where are all these? I'm looking. Do you see any players here, any of them, that have to do with Aaron Rodgers? I don't. That's it. That's all. Am I missing somebody? Who am I missing? Okay. Stiff. Retired. Gonna be better this year when Rodgers is playing. And by the way, Cobb would have been a mildly important and still cheap option for Aaron Rodgers if he was playing. And that's it. So really, what Joe Douglas did, which I still think he did wrong, 100%, When you went and signed Alan Lazard, the one thing that should have done, that should have been a sign that you needed the next guy that should have been a part of that unit needed to be a speed guy. Oh, wait a second. We had McCall Hardman. That's right. There's your speed guy. He's not here. Why is he not here? I don't know. Why is McCall Hardman not here? Well, part of the reason he's not here, of course, is because he just didn't work out. The specific reasons, we don't know. But they did bring in a speed guy to compensate. And it didn't work out. And who do you blame? You blame Joe Douglas, absolutely. He did not do a good job of bringing in some really good quality depth at wide receiver to surround whoever the quarterback was. And that cost them. And that was part of the reason their offense was just terrible towards the end of the middle to the end of last season. Anyway, there you go. So there's your Aaron Rodgers is the GM of the team. Okay, I named about 5 players max that you could have tied to Aaron Rodgers, and there's about 70 players on that roster, on that depth chart. You've got the 53 active, you got the reserves, the practice squad, all those guys. So it's about 70 to 5, something like that. 70 to 5. I don't know how does that work to Aaron Rodgers' favor? I don't see that. It's total, typical media bullshit speak, just to create a story.
The assistant GM. Aaron Rodgers is running everything. Other parts of the story, according to Diana and Zach Rosenblatt, who wrote it, is that Zach Wilson, by the end of the year, had it.
Just so you know, too, this guy, okay, Michael Kay, does not like Aaron Rodgers. Do you know why? Because this guy is a pro-COVID vax guy. Aaron Rodgers was not. So the two personality political clash. You have to put that in perspective. You have to keep that in mind. What
Take your phones
hyperbole.
and check them. I mean, this is unbelievable that this was happening at Florham Park. And you can see why everything just broke down after 4 plays, because everything was built on one man.
Yeah.
And when that one man was extracted out of the equation, Don, the Jets fell apart.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that
What do we don't know about this?
we all knew about or speculated
Yes, we did
about, but
know.
just to see it all in one article was just scary. And again, we can't tell what's true, what's not true, but it feels like there's a lot of truth there because,
Feels like
yeah, of course he's in charge.
Feels like it.
But the stuff about like
Of course
this,
Aaron Rodgers is in charge. Of course he is. You know, there's some credibility that goes into what these guys talk about on a daily basis. There's a lot of things they talk about, I'm sure, that New York fans are pretty happy about and they're entertained by and so forth and so on. And there's some things they talk about that I don't know about. I mean, there's a lot of sports, some things they talk about, and I don't know. What I do know is this, and what I do know is my team, okay? Because I've been covering and following this team since I can just remember. So, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years? So, I know, all right? So this is something I can talk about. They lose all credibility when with a straight face they make a comment like that Aaron Rodgers is running the New York Jets. They lose all credibility. They look and sound like fucking buffoons. And anybody who thinks that way is a moron.
Hackett being clueless, and and how they kind of just punted on the season after he went down when there was really no reason to do that. Well, why is it just
They punted on the season? They won the first game. How did they punt on the season? It's Nathaniel Hackett's incompetence and a rash of injuries is the reason why the Jets were not able to contend late in the season for a playoff berth. That's all. There's no punt on the season. What? Who does that? Nobody. Did it look like Joe Douglas was punting on the season when he came off the field after they beat the Eagles, when the Eagles were undefeated? Him and Saleh got together, and it was like such a big deal to Joe Douglas that they beat the Eagles. And still at that point before the bye, there was a lot of hope that the Jets could be a playoff team this year. And once again, after the bye, and this has got to be fixed, but once again, Robert Saleh has done a terrible job coaching after byes. But don't rewrite the season by making it seem that as soon as Aaron Rodgers went down, the entire team just gave up and they were only thinking about next year, because that was not the case. It wasn't even close. By the way, you want to know why Woody Johnson, another reason that Woody Johnson didn't fire Saleh and Joe Douglas? It's because that Woody Johnson was behind this 1,000%. And I hate using any percentage over 100, but I have to emphasize that's how much Woody Johnson was in this whole Aaron Rodgers thing. So what was he going to fire himself? I mean, if I could imagine if Woody Johnson was skeptical about bringing Aaron Rodgers in, and Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh had to convince him tooth and nail to bring this guy in. Trust me, it's the best way for us. And then he's lost for the season. The team misses out on the playoffs again. Well, you know what? Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh would be gone. But because Woody Johnson believed in it 100% the way Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh did, that's the reason they're both back. He knows what happened. He's a realist.
And then this stupid article from The Athletic, and it's not a diss on their work. It's stupid,
It is stupid
because it changes my entire mood. Ridiculous press conferences where he says nothing, to the penalties which he
Agreed.
accepts, to the way he
Agreed.
subverted his young pick, Zach Wilson, going back, his confidence, going back to the Mike White stuff. There's
Agreed.
nothing that the coach has done
Absolutely agree with everything you just
that
said.
shouts anything remotely good. Except that I do think he's a good person, which obviously does matter. I think he's a horrendous coach that would
Not a
infiltrate
horrendous
how he
coach.
coaches. And apparently he does.
You watch what'll happen this year when Aaron Rodgers is healthy. If the team is healthy and Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they will be a playoff team. I guarantee it. And then we'll see what kind of lousy head coach Robert Saleh is.
What I am now seeing and what I am able to deduce from this article, which is scathing. I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's a hatchet piece with intention, because I don't think
will.
The Athletic went after it with this angle.
I will.
I don't. I
will.
respect the integrity of the journalism.
Oh, of
I think
course
what
he
they want to do is do a
does.
deeper dive around somebody interesting, Rodgers. And
Kiss
the more
ass.
people they spoke to, the more they're like, wow, this place is an absolute disaster. It's absolute.
All right, there you go. See? Already believe in it. There you go. His mind is made up. Mr. Positivity is going to take the word of at least one of the writers who can't stand Aaron Rodgers and therefore the success or any success the Jets might have in the future or at any time. And so she's going to do whatever she can to make sure that they're seen in a negative light. So he's going to believe that, and he's going to believe mostly everything in it, because he obviously does. Like I said, here's Mr. Positivity now turning into Mr. Negativity because of rumor opinion. Rumor opinion. Conjecture. That's all this is. You would have thought that this was in December or the first day after the season ended. This is the week of the Super Bowl. And both the GM and the head coach coming back. And there's not like this video of, hey, look what we caught so-and-so do and say. There's no head coach doing or saying anything new. There's no GM doing or saying anything new. There's no quarterback doing or saying anything new. And there's no owner doing or saying anything new. This is all the same BS that we heard all season long. And because they put it all into one article, okay, basically what they did was they took all the little crap that was going on during the season, the negative stuff, and he put it all into one article, like to surmise the Jets season. They put it out there, and all these Jet fans or media people in New York are looking at it, people all over the nation are looking at it like, wow, look at this. Look at what was going on in New York this season. As fact. Okay, that's going to do it. I hope I've been able to give you guys enough of a counterpoint to an article that had no facts. And it's up to you to decide how you want to look at it. And I have no problem if you disagree with me and agree with them, but I at least think it's important that you get both sides. Now it's up to you to decide which way to go. I've given you my side, but the fact that most of this stuff is not true, okay? And you know what? Maybe we will hear also what happens if and when Zach Wilson gets traded. And like I said, we'll talk more about that on another show. I think it would be a really dumb decision for Joe Douglas to trade Zach. But look, if he trades him, then I would think that some of the story or some of the stuff that they talked about with Zach would be true if they trade Zach. Meaning, I think because the only reason to trade Zach, in my mind, would be if some of this stuff was true. Otherwise, trading Zach, it would be the dumbest thing you can do. Because if you trade him and he ends up becoming a star quarterback on a winning franchise, you know, with a whiz offensive coordinator and an excellent team around him, you are going to be looked at as the dumbest idiot in the world. Okay, for drafting him to go through all the bad years, then to trade him just when he's about to do something with his career, and then boom, he takes off. You would be an idiot. So, anyway, we'll talk more about that on another show. It's been a long one, so thanks for hanging in there. Because if you are hanging in there at this point, you're a Jet fan, that's for sure. And I appreciate your questions and comments, pro or con. Please share the video as often as you can if you enjoyed what we talked about. If you liked, hopefully, what we talked about. We also appreciate the likes. All of that stuff is real positive for us here on the channel. And don't forget to check out the Our Lads football channel too, because that's relatively new and it's going to be big time this offseason with the NFL draft just a few months away, including free agency. We're going to do a lot of stuff over there as well. So we're out of here, and all I can say is keep up as much faith as you can, because you can't have that much bad luck with injuries for that long. And I know, I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan, and my team is atop the NHL standings this year, and half the reason is because they have had no injuries. They've had like one injury on the team all year. And it's amazing what happens when your team is healthy. And if the Jets can stay healthy, which is actually what the general manager of the Vancouver Canucks said in the preseason, if we can stay healthy, we're going to be a legitimate team. And that's exactly what should be said by Joe Douglas. I don't think he'll say that, but it's what he should say. Is if he thinks he's got a good team, say it. Say, hey, as long as we're healthy, I think we're going to be. He's got nothing to lose at this point. I say, look, if he really believes he has a playoff football team, then say it. Then say, you know what? If we avoid injuries, serious injuries, I guarantee. Well, maybe you don't want to say that, but maybe you do. We'll be a playoff team. And because every team has injuries, I'm just talking about. You just got to stay away from these rash of injuries, which this organization has been dealing with for just far too long. So at some point that comes to an end. And if it comes to an end next year, especially with Aaron Rodgers starting all season, the Jets will be a playoff team. And all of this, okay, all of these people are going to be accountable. They're going to be held accountable. And I guarantee you we're going to revisit it.